The National Desk, America's News Now.
Inside the ethics report on Rep. George Santos, ahead why a growing number of lawmakers now say they will vote to expel the embattled congressman.
Underneath that hospital and the hospital itself is being used by Hamas as a command and control mode.
IDF claiming new evidence of Hamas using hospitals as it comes under increasing criticism globally. Ahead, what protesters did to make sure their message was heard. The UAW vote to accept or reject the contract from GM comes to a close. Multiple plants voted against the offer, but did they win out in the end? This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. New York Congressman George Santos will no longer be seeking a second term in office, but he maintains his innocence. This after the House Ethics Committee released their unanimous findings that there is, quote, substantial evidence that Santos committed potential violations of federal criminal law, including using campaign funds for personal purposes and filing false campaign reports. The committee has referred their report to the Department of Justice, alleging that possibly more laws could have been broken than what George Santos has already been indicted for. He has pleaded not guilty to 13 federal charges so far. Speaking before the report was made public, Santos said this was all a misunderstanding.
Were there mistakes made on those forms? Now I know they were. Were they malicious? No. Did I understand the reporting date? So this is from last year to current date this year? No, I didn't understand how that worked. And I'm a new candidate, and I'm sorry that mistakes were made.
Ethics Committee Chairman Michael Guest says the findings show Santos beneath the dignity of the office and says he plans to file paperwork tomorrow morning for expulsion from the House. Santos survived a vote to remove him earlier this month. The bill is expected to come to the floor on November 28th after Congress returns from Thanksgiving recess. And turning now to Israel's military ground offensive in Gaza tonight, an Israeli hostage found dead by IDF forces, 65-year-old Judith Weiss. Now, Israel says she was found right near El Shifa Hospital, close to where Israel alleges they discovered Hamas weapons and an underground tunnel, Hamas denying those claims. And here's what we know at this point right now. The IDF has complete control over the western part of Gaza City tonight and is beginning what they're calling the next phase of this ground maneuver. Israel has dropped leaflets across parts of southern Gaza calling on civilians in those communities to evacuate to shelters. The orders right now causing anxiety as Gazans are still on a journey south from the northern part of the Strip on orders from Israel to evacuate for its military campaign. Unclear where those individuals can safely evacuate to at this point. Right now, the UN estimating more than 1.5 million people, of 2 million living in Gaza, internally displaced and homeless. Aid organizations warning that an Israeli move southward could cause a dire humanitarian situation to deteriorate even further. This happening as the UN World Food Program now says Gazans are facing the immediate possibility of starvation as food production collapses and Palestinians in Gaza deal with a total communications blackout. Meantime, the State Department confirming today Americans are still stuck in Gaza, giving this update on the numbers.
There are a little under 900 who are left. Of that number, around 300 of them or so are American citizens, and the others are legal permanent residents and their family members. We're trying to get more out all the time and remain in contact with the American citizens and family members that are left.
And it comes as we learn shelling has ramped up at the Israel-Lebanon border as Hezbollah and IDF forces exchange missile strikes. The skirmishes at Israel's northern border now the most intense we've seen since the start of Israel's military efforts against Hamas. Meantime, in Boston and in San Francisco, protesters demanding the United States support a ceasefire in the Israeli ground offensive, blocking traffic on major bridges. In Boston, the Boston University Bridge came to a halt during morning rush hour. Protesters walked through traffic with signs saying "Jews say ceasefire now." While in San Francisco, police estimate that between 20 and 50 arrests were made after multiple vehicles were left abandoned on the Bay Bridge. Some protesters threw their keys into the bay to make it more difficult to clear the cars. And this news comes as last night a group of anti-Israel activists injured 6 United States Capitol police officers, leading to 1 arrest for assault. Capitol Police saying today the injuries were mild. The protesters had blocked the DNC headquarters in Washington, D.C., also calling for a ceasefire while lawmakers were inside. And a suspect arrested in connection with the death of a Jewish protester during demonstrations in California over Israel's war against Hamas. On November 5th, 69-year-old Paul Kessler was found bleeding from the head after apparently falling backward during dueling protests with pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli advocates. The Ventura County Sheriff's Office says 50-year-old Luai Al-Naji is being investigated on suspicion of involuntary manslaughter. Authorities say the suspect had, in fact, called police after the incident and is cooperating. As many as 450 patients at Salem Hospital in Massachusetts have been notified that they have been exposed to HIV or hepatitis. Patients at risk were undergoing endoscopic procedures like colonoscopies over the past 2 years. The hospital says immediate changes were made as soon as it became aware of the problem. So far, there is no evidence of anyone getting an infection. And in South Florida, roughly 59,000 residents still without power in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. This as the area has received between 7 and 12 inches of rain since Wednesday morning. High winds hitting 45 miles an hour before conditions improved this afternoon. Broward County Public Schools, the nation's 6th largest school district, closed today because of the threat of flooding. A New York federal appeals court has temporarily lifted the civil trial gag order on Donald Trump placed by Judge Arthur Engoron. Judge Engoron has already held Trump in contempt of court for comments he made about Engoron's law clerk. An appellate judge declared that ruling unconstitutional, and a stay on the gag order will be in place until a full panel from the appeals court can review the case. Meantime, David DePape, the man who attacked Paul Pelosi, has been found guilty of attempted kidnapping of an official and assault of an official's family member. During his testimony, the 43-year-old admitted to bludgeoning Paul Pelosi with a hammer after breaking into his San Francisco home last year. He told jurors he was seeking out Nancy Pelosi in a plan to, quote, end government corruption. DePape now faces up to 50 years in prison. A Texas jury has convicted Caitlin Armstrong of murder in the killing of professional cyclist Anna Maria Wilson. Prosecutors say Armstrong shot and killed Wilson last year out of jealousy because Wilson briefly dated Armstrong's boyfriend several months earlier. Armstrong's defense team argued there were no witnesses or video evidence of the shooting. She was found in Costa Rica. Armstrong faces now life in prison when she is sentenced later today. And police are investigating a case where they say a Michigan man shot a BB gun at another vehicle while driving and also displayed a fake FBI badge. No one was hurt, and the 55-year-old suspect has been arrested. He admitted to having road rage. The man is expected to be charged today, potentially with assault with a dangerous weapon. An Alabama inmate, meantime, set to be executed by lethal injection this evening for the 1993 shooting death of his friend's father. Casey McWhorter was 18 when he conspired with 2 younger teens to kill the victim. Today, the Supreme Court denied McWhorter's requests to delay the execution, his defense arguing state law doesn't consider a teen an adult until the age of 19. And Texas is also set to execute a man tonight for the 2001 kidnapping and murder of a 5-year-old girl from El Paso. Prosecutors say Alexandra Flores was taken by David Renteria at a Walmart and found the next day in a nearby alley. Renteria claims gang members killed Flores after forcing Renteria to abduct her. The 2024 field may be far from set. Retiring Democratic Senator Joe Manchin says he may run for president as an independent. Manchin says both parties have gone too far to the left and right. And as chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us, plenty of voters agree.
For those assuming 2024 will turn out as this two-man race, an alarming number of Americans are saying not so fast, including West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who's floating the idea of a third-party run, citing concerns about both Donald Trump.
The country would be in a horrible situation, challenging our democracy if he got reelected.
And President Biden.
He's not the person we thought that was getting elected, being a centrist and moderate. He's been pushed so far to the left.
He's not alone. A new Quinnipiac poll shows more than 7 in 10 independent voters want someone else in the race, and almost 6 in 10 Democrats. But only about 3 in 10 Republicans feel that way. A majority of them say they're satisfied with the current field.
It's significant that at this point, this many people are on the fence. I mean, this is a time where we've got 2 older gentlemen running for president who are not terribly popular. And so people are looking for something else.
Prompting scenes like this, reporters peppering Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson while on the Hill Wednesday.
Mr. Johnson, are you running for president?
But more serious consideration is being granted elsewhere, and nobody seeing it more than Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Kennedy is a force in the universe in this all of a sudden. I'll let you draw the conclusion why, but we also found the people who have least belief in government have the most belief in Kennedy.
And he, a skeptic of the election system, which he likened to the former Soviet Union.
The Communist Party was claiming that they had a democracy. But the way they controlled the democracy is the party alone could designate who the nominees were.
Telling me that it's younger voters specifically who are perhaps most disheartened with the current slate of candidates and are looking for a fresh horse, one that even if that candidate doesn't win could still dramatically alter the race. Amira?
And Scott, everyone likes to point out how third-party candidates or independent candidates can be spoilers. How much of a consideration do you think that is for these potential candidates?
Well, supposedly it's a big one. We'll wait and see. But former Senator Joe Lieberman, who's one of those organizing the No Labels party and potentially putting up another candidate, says that at this point they would not put someone forward if they believe it would help former President Trump win, because he said a majority of their supporters don't want that.
There certainly seems to be a growing appetite for these third-party candidates right now. Scott Thuman live in Washington, D.C. for us. Thank you, as always. Coming up, more people are applying for unemployment benefits, what that says about the U.S. economy. Then the common but risky cooking habits that could lead to serious illness with Thanksgiving just a week away. Plus, a disaster averted. Florida police recount how they stopped a mass shooting from happening. President Biden reaffirming tonight that the United States plays a vital role in the Pacific region at this year's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit.
So my message to all of you here today is, leaders of government and industry, you can count on the United States. We're delivering on our promises and we're doubling down on our progress.
Biden says it's because of the U.S. that there has been peace and security in the region. The president pointing to investments by companies like Amazon and Boeing. He says U.S. companies have high standards and fair practices. Biden says his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping yesterday was, quote, candid and straightforward, emphasizing that the U.S. does not seek conflict with the country.
A stable relationship between the world's two largest economies is not merely good for the two economies, but for the world. A stable relationship. It's good for everyone.
And Biden was applauded when he said the U.S. and China resumed military-to-military talks. He reiterated the U.S. is de-risking and diversifying its economic relations with China, not decoupling. Well, jobless claims, they are up according to a new government report. Applications increased by 13,000 last week to 231,000, a three-month high. They reflect how many people were, in fact, laid off. Continuing claims filed by those who were already unemployed, those are also rising. Economists say it means some cooling in the labor market is happening, which is in line with the Fed's goal. The first UAW contract with the big three automakers will officially be ratified. Union members in a tight vote approved their new contract with GM with 54.7 in favor. Multiple factories had voted against the deal, but majority rules and a new 4-year contract will be accepted. The vote for Ford plants ends on Saturday, and Stellantis union members have until Tuesday to vote. The UAW has indicated that so far roughly 66% of union members are in favor of each of those deals, so it's looking likely to go through. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs being sued by his former girlfriend, R&B singer Cassandra Cassie Ventura, of rape and repeated physical abuse over the course of a decade. A lawyer for P. Diddy saying, quote, Mr. Combs vehemently denies these offensive and outrageous allegations. The first ever gene therapy for sickle cell disease has been approved in Britain. Today, the country said it authorized Casgevy, licensed using the gene editing tool CRISPR, for patients 12 and up. Sickle cell disease is caused by a genetic mutation that can lead to severe pain, organ damage, and other symptoms. The FDA is reviewing Casgevy and could make a decision as early as next month. Meantime, premature birth remains a big problem in the U.S. A new report from the March of Dimes grades the country a D+ on that front, showing that the rate of babies born before 37 weeks is among the highest it's been in more than a decade. 8 states plus Puerto Rico got a failing grade, and no states, not one, got an A. Preterm birth is the leading cause of infant death. Some good news, though, is that the rate of young cancer deaths dropped 24% in the last 2 decades. A new CDC report found death rates in Black, Hispanic, and white children and teens fell between 2001 and 2011. After 2011, only kids 9 and younger saw notable declines. Pediatric oncologists say advancements in treatments fueled the overall progress. The Oakland Athletics have been granted unanimous approval by Major League Baseball owners to move the franchise to Las Vegas. Nevada's government has approved a $380 million project for a new stadium built on the Las Vegas Strip to open in 2027. The A's lease at the Oakland Coliseum expires after next season, leaving their home in the interim up in the air. This is not the first time Vegas has taken a team from the Bay. The Oakland Raiders, you may remember, moved to Las Vegas back in 2020. Well, we are 1 week away from that Thanksgiving dinner, but beware, the CDC estimates 1 in 6 Americans gets a foodborne illness each and every year, which is why experts suggest avoiding several risky behaviors when cooking that holiday meal. Medical reporter Liz Bonas shares what's on the list.
Hey there, everybody. USDA has a slogan, wash your hands and not the turkey, because they want all of us not to serve up a side dish of bacteria at our holiday meal. But that's not the only dangerous habit they would like us to drop. There are several risky habits to avoid while prepping the perfect meal.
You want your soapy waters to be hot.
Topping the list is Chef Candace of Ohio Cedarville University knows not washing hands and surfaces before, during, and after food prep. It's all because while you can't see them, the germs that come with turkey prep include Salmonella, Campylobacter, Clostridium perfringens, and E. coli. These can lead to bad GI symptoms, hospitalization, and even death. Second risky habit, not cleaning utensils and cutting boards between raw and cooked food.
I'm cleaning the knife that I opened the package up with.
Third risky habit, defrosting the turkey on the counter. The outer layer becomes a bacteria danger zone. USDA recommends 24 hours in the refrigerator for every 4 to 5 pounds. Finally, break the habit of overnight slow cooking.
So I like to keep my cooking time under, 4 hours.
And break the habit of not checking the turkey temperature in more than one spot.
And if it doesn't read 165, it needs more time to cook.
We have this list for you online and a few other safety suggestions about the ongoing debate of washing the turkey. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Back to you.
Always a big debate, Liz. Thank you. Coming up, a Florida cop knew something wasn't right when he pulled a man over what he found when he searched the truck. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we begin with the Coast Guard suspending its search for a missing crew member who reportedly fell overboard from a cruise ship. Our team recounts what happened during that search.
Again, you may notice that we are currently not sailing our usual course.
Instead, this is what the thousands on board the MSC Seascape are seeing. Coast Guard helicopters overhead, a Coast Guard boat off in the distance, and spotlights in the water, all looking for a crew member who fell overboard Tuesday night. The ship had been on a 7-day cruise that left Miami Saturday.
Please go inside the ship. Thank you.
My boyfriend and I did try to go downstairs, but they did kick everybody off of the levels on the outside, so we have been hanging out on our balcony right now.
She says the communication from the cruise company has been constant.
A crew member was reported missing while the ship was en route to Dominican Republic.
While those on board, both passengers and crew members, are hoping for a miracle.
When I say our prayers, I'm with our missing crew member and his family.
That spot has been an issue my entire life.
I talked with a resident,
Born and raised in Rumford,
who says this business on Newport Avenue has had many names over the years, but the same problems.
Same thing, same issues, whatever kind of hotel, motel, Holiday Inn it has been. It's always been a problem. And the Rumford Motor Inn is no different.
East Providence police seized more than 200 stolen goods from a room at the inn after they received multiple phone calls from Rumford residents about stolen items from their cars and garages.
Jewelry, tools, keys, laptops, credit cards, and social security cards.
Using surveillance video, investigators were able to identify the suspect as 37-year-old Nelson Wilson of Providence. A search of the room he was staying in at the Rumford Motor Inn turned up hundreds of items and cocaine. Wilson is facing a slew of charges, including possession of a stolen motor vehicle, a felon in possession of a gun, breaking and entering, larceny, and other counts.
Just on behalf of everybody, wanted to say thank you.
A standing ovation for 3 Jupiter police officers. A simple show of appreciation for going above and beyond to prevent a possible massacre at a local high school. Back on September 18th, before 9:30 p.m., Officer Kevin Salas Lopez pulled over 19-year-old Henry Horton IV of Okeechobee for a broken headlight along Indiantown Road in Jupiter.
I don't know if it was the 1,000-yard stare I got or just everything, something in my gut said something's not right.
He was giving exact dates and times of where he wanted to do things, how he was going to carry them out, what exact model weapons he wanted to use.
Before taking him to a law enforcement Baker Act, they learned Horton was heading down south to plan his attack.
As I'm shutting off his phone, the GPS does show he was heading towards Miami to a specific church.
It wasn't just a random spur-of-the-moment thought. You could tell he put time and detail into what he was thinking and writing.
Well, the pandas at the National Zoo just went back to China, but coming up, why they could be returning very soon. Stay with us. Panda lovers, listen up. China may be sending some our way. After his meeting with Biden yesterday, President Xi Jinping of China said that the country's ready to continue its cooperation with America on panda conservation. Xi said the bears are envoys of friendship. It comes after 3 pandas at D.C.'s National Zoo recently went back to China. The country first gave pandas to the zoo in 1972 before the normalization of relations between the 2 countries. Nothing like some panda diplomacy. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.